which is finding out what happened to 4 murdered Americans in Benghazi. That's why we are interviewing eyewitnesses that have never been interviewed before, accessing documents that have never been accessed before. So when you hear, and you'll hear it a lot leading up to October 22nd, you'll hear about the Accountability Review Board, the ARB. That's where Secretary Clinton runs every time she gets a question she doesn't like. The Accountability Review Board said this, the Accountability Review Board said that. She mentioned it 70 times in her previous testimony before the House and the Senate. But this is what you need to know about the Accountability Review Board. Who picked the board? She did. Did they interview her? Did they have access to her email? Were you aware that her chief of staff was given an opportunity to review and edit the Accountability Review Board before it was made public? So if that is independent accountability to you, you are in a very small group of people. She's going to talk about the ARB. You just need to keep in mind there was nothing independent, there was nothing accountable, it was a pretty lousy review, which means you're just left with bored. What else are you going to hear? That this is the 8th congressional investigation? You should ask yourself how the first 7 missed the fact that she had her own private server and only used personal email. If they were that good at finding out what happened in Benghazi, they did it without a single one of her emails, because not a single one of those committees found that out. I do not want to be the committee on emails, which is why you don't hear me talking about the Clinton Foundation, and you really don't hear me talking about classified information to the extent it doesn't deal with Benghazi and Libya. Someone needs to look into that, but I am trying to be sensitive to the fact that 4 murdered Americans is enough for me. I do not need the Clinton Foundation. I don't need classified material. Devin Nunes on HIPSI can do it. Jason Chaffetz can do it. Anyone else can do it, but I'm going to remain focused on what happened on September the 11th, 2012, before, during, and after the attacks. If you have a chance on October 22nd, tune in. I do want to ask you this question before I turn it over to Mickey. How many of you have already made up your mind with respect to Secretary Clinton? Raise your hand high. Be proud of it if you have. How many of you are open-minded as to whether or not she played or bears any responsibility for what happened before, during, and after Benghazi? Who's still open-minded?
We might need some more information.
Then I will tell you this with all due respect, in the town I grew up in, you're probably not the jury that I'm going to be speaking to on the 22nd of October. If you have already made up your mind on either side, then chances are great you're not going to hear a ton that's going to sway you enough for you to change your mind. If you're in the middle, if you think, you know, I've heard about it, it doesn't seem right, but yet these are crazy House Republicans and we've done it 8 times before and there was an ARB, I'll tune in, I'll be open-minded, that's the jury. So what you're going to see and hear on the 22nd are really good questions, not speeches, not 20 minutes worth of, I want to thank you for your service to the country, which we got plenty of the last 2 times you came. You're going to hear really pointed questions calculated to get answers. But it's not going to be, it's not going to be WWE wrestling. It is not, it's hard for somebody from the South to interrupt anybody. It's especially hard to interrupt a woman. So this is the good news. She's agreed to come until we run out of questions. So there really isn't any reason for me to interrupt her. If she wants to be there till 3 o'clock in the morning, then she can take 20 minutes to say good morning. Because I've got a long list of questions and we're going to get them all answered. And there's just as much reason for her to be pithy in her response as there is for me to be pithy in my question. So we're prepared.